You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. Just a heads up, this episode is brought to you by my book, The Guide for Every Screenwriter, which has been listed as one of the best screenwriting books of all time by the Book Authority. If you're looking for something that reveals the secrets of screenwriting in an easy to understand and engaging way, then this is the book for you. You can find The Guide for Every Screenwriter at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/books. Now, on to the show. All right, welcome to the podcast. We have a really cool guest today who wrote a book called The Kick-Ass Story Outline. Ashley C., thanks for being on with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is really unique. I haven't seen a book like this before. And so what it is, it's essentially, it's a like a course workbook for screenwriting.
Yes.
We're going to get into that. But before we really kind of break down your book and what you're doing, I want to hear a little bit about what brought you to writing this book.
So I like to tell people my story. It's really weird. I accidentally bumped into the industry as far as filmmaking because one of my friends said he was making a movie and needed some help. And I'm like, yeah, right. Movies are always like far-fetched. I've just always been a watcher, and it grew into a love. It grew into a passion. So I, started out as a PA and then worked my way up to producer. And now I'm executive producing on a film right now that's currently being shopped around. And then when COVID hit, because I was in the field a lot, like I was traveling on set. When COVID hit, it kind of forced me to focus on the development phase of filmmaking and using my writing skills. So I started to consult with writers and on their stories, a lot of independent writers, very good storylines and great ideas, but they had no idea of how to really develop it and outline it. So I found myself repeating myself to a lot of people. And I said, you know what? I think it's just time that I get this down on paper.
Yeah.
Because I think I could reach more people because, doing Zooms and stuff like that, I can't reach as many people as I could if I just got it down in the book. So, and then plus we are in this era of planners, like you can find a planner for everything, a business, goals.
Yeah.
But there was nothing out there for the writers. So that was a little bit of my inspiration behind making a planner or a workbook that we could go through our stories.
I think it's really cool. So essentially it takes you through the entire process and it fields questions. You've got diagrams, you've got, complete workbook of, this is how you do your outline. This is how you do your character breakdown. And then you ask strengths and weaknesses and you leave plenty of space in there for people to fill it out. So if you start a new screenplay, you can take this workbook and you can just fill it in as you're developing your script. And then by the time you're done, you'll have everything you need. There's even a character breakdown. And so then if you wanted to use it again, you'd pick up another book and use it for that next script.
I'm reminding you, you are a boss of the good work.
I think you are a boss, Ashley, and I really agree with that.
I'm sorry.
What's going on right now?
I that's my Alexa. And she reminds me every day to keep going.
That is amazing. So, all right. I saw that with your outline, you used Freytag's pyramid of story structure. Is this something that you obviously think is your methodology for using story structure? Because Freytag goes back to early 19th century playwriting.
Yeah, I think it's I think it effectively gets across an authentic story. And it's kind of what we are used to as viewers, as watching the shows. And it's kind of crazy that you said that, because like I'm a 90s girl. So that era and the movies and how it made you feel and the way you enjoyed it was just awesome. So I kind of stick by that. And it just makes sense to me, you know. So that's what I teach is that structure. Simply because mass majority of us are used to enjoying a film or series in that format.
Yeah, I think it works. I mean, it's tried and true. It's been around for, over 100 years. So doing that type of structure makes sense. And it's simple. It's not too hard to teach. It's only like 5 points. You can really get through it. It's clean and it makes sense when you show it to someone and you do a nice breakdown of that. I just thought it was cool because I don't see Freytag's pyramid used a lot. So it was cool to see someone bring that in, because typically you see, 3-act structure and stuff like that. Like in my book, I have 9-point plot outline, which I use. And it is cool to see someone bring in I don't want to say new, but a different type of structure that people may not be used to saying, which is awesome. And I mean, it is all the same in the end. It's just different ways of working your way up the mountain. So I think that's pretty awesome. This book is so cool. So I haven't had a book arrive like this before. It comes in its own box and the box is branded and the box says, when you open it up, it says, "You are a bad writer." And I thought that's so cool. So, I mean, this thing, you are really gearing it towards supporting the writer, making them feel like they are a boss, making them feel like they can do it. And I just think that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's important while writing a story, that you're confident in yourself, and not only yourself in your story that you're telling. So you're right. I just want to empower and inspire and let everybody know that you have an opportunity to get your story out. And you can do this. You can do it without an agent. You can do it. If you can do it, if you're a beginner, you can do this. And you kick. You can do this.
I think that's great. We need more people like you out there really supporting and empowering people. I know that's what I definitely try and do with this show. So I think this is really nice to have a guest on that feels that too, because this industry can really knock you down. It can really play on your confidence. You can get, a piece of feedback that can just be brutal and demolish you. And it can be really hard to, gather yourself and work yourself back up from that. And it's important to know that as a writer, you're already a bad, if we're going to say that, because you are even attempting to write. I mean, people need to understand that the act of writing, you are bearing your soul out on the page. And, somebody might not like it. A lot of people might not like it, but the sheer fact that you're doing it is so brave.
Yes, I totally agree. And it goes back to like the mental health portion of screenwriting. Screenwriters often think that is being a writer, not even just a screenwriter, an author of any kind of book or anything, that it only takes writing, and it doesn't. It takes, you having tough skin, especially if you're trying to break through in the industry. It takes you having core values and mapping out your goals and knowing where you want your project to go and what you want it to be, and you stick and you stand on that. That's a part of screenwriting or writing, the writing process. And I outlined that in one of my courses. And, one of my students was like, this has nothing to do with writing. I'm like, having and knowing your core values have everything to do with writing, especially if you're writing for industry. You're going to hear so many no's. You're going to have so many people try to change your vision. You're going to have so many, and you have to, you just have to know yourself. You have to love yourself as a writer. You have to be confident in your talents and your gifts, no matter what anyone says.
I think that's so important because when you're writing from a place within yourself. So you really have to know who you are if you're going to be writing, because you're not going to know how to express what you're trying to say. I know that when I started to really do a lot of self-work and really accepting myself and becoming the better version of Geoffrey.
Yeah.
And my writing changed. It became more powerful, became more emotional. I was willing to go deeper within myself when creating a character or a storyline. And I think that's something that a lot of writers aren't really aware of, a process you can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that helps transform when you write from that place. It helps transform your character. I like to say the character drives the story and not the opposite.
Yeah.
So once you get to a vulnerable place with yourself where you are able to create from that space, it transforms your character from like this 2-3 dimensional to this 5-dimensional character. Now where you were creatively blocked, because you are in touch with yourself and you are able to create this character. Now your story's flowing because now this character is creating situations for himself or herself. So it's so much. And I think that's one of my major things I do want to get out to writers, is that it's not just about writing. It's wholly about having a healthy mental state.
Right. It's so important to, it's just hard to find support. Like when I kind of grew up in the industry, right? When I started out, I didn't really have those kinds of mentors or podcasts like this, or writers like yourself to lean on. So, I mean, I had a buddy that I would take to a bar or a restaurant, and we would just sit down and discuss notes as he tried to help me keep my sanity together. So, I mean, so it's nice to have, our generation who's come up under that kind of, or oppressive kind of attitude, really trying to reach out and help that younger generation be like, look, you can do this. It takes time. It is difficult, and you don't have to lose your mind and suffer to do it.
Absolutely. And I want to piggyback off of your, it takes time, screen and writing. I'm just going to say writing. Writing is like a slow cooked meal versus a microwavable frozen meal. It's not instantaneous, and it is not, like overnight. This is not anything that happens overnight. Usually the great stories that we see have been brewing for a while, and it's like overnight to us, like, wow, like they came up with that. But no, that you have no idea how many times that I've heard like the writers I've been working on this for years. I've been writing and developing this for years. So it takes time and patience.
It takes a decade to become an overnight success. I think that's what people don't understand. And the other thing is, are you writing to write, or are you writing to be famous? And I think this is something that you really need to think about when you're writing and figuring out who you are. Like when you're strategizing to break into the industry, are you writing because you need to write because this is your gift, this is what you've been endowed with, and this is what you can share to the world? Or are you writing so that you get recognized at Starbucks because of, or that you think it's a golden ticket and you're going to make a ton of money? Because if those are your motivations, you're going to be knocked down and you're not going to make it, and it's going to crush you. But if you're writing to write because you love it and this is your gift, you will find success one form or another.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. Definitely, I encourage writers to write to impact.
Yeah.
Even if only five people read your script or read your book or seen your film or whatever, it needs to impact those 5 people so that they can go and share and say, hey, look, you need to watch this. You need to read this. You need to listen to this.
Yeah.
So being impactful is better than being famous. And I don't think that, you'll be successful doing it that way.
No, I think you're right. I think, I get older and I get sappy, but I just feel like we're on this planet to make a difference one way or another. And that's through whatever gift you've been given that you can use and help people, not exploit, but use. And I've been doing this podcast. I wrote my book, and I've gotten emails from people. One person on Twitter the other day thanked me for my existence, and I thought that was the sweetest thing I'd ever heard. I thought it was funny because I've never been told that, but thank you for existing. I was like, okay, all right, I appreciate it. I felt that, and it made my day. And that's what you're doing with this book. I think with Kick Story Outline, it empowers people. Whether you've been writing for a while or whether you're a new writer, you can pick this thing up, and it kind of makes the process fun. It takes a little bit of that pressure off. Yeah. This is something I could see, because it comes in this cool box. If you have a friend who's new to writing or is having doubts about writing, I could see someone purchasing this, sending it to them, and it would make their day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was my goal when creating it, was to take a load off of the writer, because a lot of writers don't know the questions to ask about their own story, and don't know the importance of getting intimate with their story and breaking it down in this capacity. It even helps with pitching, because these are questions that have come up and you want to have the answer, or answer them before they're asked. So definitely, that was my goal. So I'm glad that translated that.
Yeah, no, it did.
My heart's purpose is to make the load easy, teach, and just make it fun again. Because a lot of writers that I've talked to, like, they get discouraged, and it's not fun, and it's not, and I'm like, it is fun. You just
No, I can see that because I had an assignment last month, and I finished the assignment, and the director was like, "Are you ready for this?" And I said, "Yeah. I mean, screenwriting is the worst thing I can do."
Right.
It's like, I love doing it, but at the same time, it's so painful to put yourself in that position and to be vulnerable, and then to create that. I have to build myself into it. But once I'm in it, man, I mean, I'm in it and I love it. But yeah, it can be. I have to assume it's what Olympic athletes feel right before they get out on the floor and they do their performance. It's that anxiety, it's that doubt that creeps in, but then eventually you got to work through all that and realize this is what you do, and then you get it done. And then I like the fact that your process with this book takes some of that pressure away. So if you're out there and you're just playing around with an idea, I think this is a great book where you can really start kind of taking your time and work through it. Before we go, I do want to talk to you, because you had talked about strategy, and I like the idea that you mentioned strategy, because when I talk about success with writers that I mentor, I always say, you have to have a plan. You're not going to stumble into success. You're not going to write this script and then it's going to all of a sudden be made famous. I know writers that have made nickels. I mean, I mentored a writer who won nickels, and you have to have a strategy. You can't just rely on winning this award and then you're going to get made. You're going to write the script, is going to do well in this, and then you're going to start pitching it to people. You have to know where you're going. And I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I agree. I like to say Floyd Mayweather, he is great and undefeated because he knows the fundamentals of the game. It's not just getting out there throwing punches at his opponent.
Yeah.
He has fundamental knowledge, and he has become expert on the game. And writing, especially writing to get in the industry or to sell or to, whatever, you really need to strategize. You really need to map out your goals. You really need to have a plan in place. And that is not the writer. That's the business person behind the writer. So the writer is not just the writer. You're a business person. You have to go and do this research. If you don't have friends or not surrounded by the people that can teach you this, you have to go and utilize Google and YouTube and all of these other browsers and do the research and get familiar with where the industry is going and where you want to be. Yeah.
You're everything from your own brand developer to your own social media guru. I mean, it is crazy, all of these extra things you have to do to really stand out and make a difference and make a name for yourself, and then start to get the attention and then start to get your work out there. No one ever told me that. I had to stumble into it. So
Right.
I was like, man,
that's what sets writers that are successful apart from the writers that are just writing and it turns into a habit, is that they're just writing and they don't know that you have to have a strategy, just as anything else. Like, you have to have a place and say, hey, this is going to land here at this time. This is what I want to do. These are the people I want to ask. These are the people I want to reach out to read it. Like, you have to get that stuff in place to be the writer that you want to be, the career writer.
Absolutely. Ashley, where can people find this book and where can they find you?
The book is, you can grab the book at www.kickassoutline.com. And then I'm on all of the social media platforms, Ashley C. I am Ashley C. And then Kick-Ass Storyline on Instagram.
All right. Very good. All right, Ashley, I just wanted to say thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share on your social media where you can tag us at The Successful Screenwriter.